Welcome everyone, I'm AngloV the Polish guy, and in this video I want to show you another feat idea by Ranzera, this time a C2 wormhole Jackdaw. Similarly to the people I showed off before, this feat isn't new player friendly and requires good skills since it's very tight on CPU and power grid. Same as this people, it's focused on speed tanking but uses active shield boosting instead of passive regeneration. Now let's look at the feat itself. In the high slots we have a core probe launcher with sister core probes, not an expanded one because there isn't enough CPU available. Next are T2 rocket launchers with Inferno Rage rockets, in total dealing about 219 DPS at 6.8 km range. In the mid slots there is an 1mm T2 afterburner, originally a meta one, but because of my alteration I managed to fit a T2 one. Next are 3 capacitic particle field accelerators to raise the shield boost amount. An EM ward field T2 will patch the EM hole in shield resistances. The C-type medium shield booster allows for very good tanking and isn't too hard on the CPU and grid. It costs the most of the whole feat though. In the low slots, a ballistic control system T2 raises the damage, and a Mark I compact capacitor flux coil helps with the cap. The rigs are 2 T2 capacitor control circuits and 1 T1. Overall, the total stats are up to 262 DPS tank and 219 DPS damage. The tank isn't meant to run constantly and needs some careful piloting and cap management, since the cap will only hold for 2.5 minutes. Pulsing shields for a single cycle when they get below 70% is the safest bet. Now, let's see how it works in practice. The first C2 wormhole I found to test this feat in had a Wolf-Rayet effect, so the shield boost went from 262 to 297, and DPS from 219 to 407, so less tanking and a lot more damage. First site is a Forgotten Perimeter Gateway relic. First thing after warping in that I have to do is get close to the rats. I can't do that just approaching, and instead I have to manually get close while maintaining angular velocity to mitigate the turret damage. At long distances it's not possible to do effectively, so I have to pulse my shield booster from time to time. Overall, piloting like this is fairly demanding, but fun at the same time. When I got close, I started orbiting and activated my rockets. Because of the Wolf-Rayet effect, the damage is fairly high and the rat is going down at a decent speed. The node pressure is kind of concerning here, since my cap isn't the best, but with pulsing the shields it doesn't even go below 50%. Since the damage wasn't as high as I anticipated, I decided to switch over to speed mode. It didn't affect my ability to tank too much, so I decided it was my mode of choice. Since I was still getting used to flying this ship, I kept double clicking to run my shields for a single cycle, which didn't deactivate it at times, making it run for longer. With tight cap, I would rather not run modules for more than necessary. At last, I decided to drop my MTU. This time I didn't forget to bring it, and it will gather the loot for me. I won't salvage, since making ISK isn't the primary objective here, but I have the modules for such a refit. On the next wave I was concerned about the battleships hitting me, so I changed the mode for defense. The frigates got close to me on their own, so I didn't pursue them to not lower my angular to match. One of the frigates got out of range, but when I started orbiting the battleship, it got closer and I destroyed it without any problems. At this point I also changed my default orbit to 2 kilometers. It took some slow grinding, but I got through the battleship, spawning the next wave. The 4 frigates here were the most dangerous, since they can actually hit me. I used the same tactic as before of letting them get close on their own. I had to fly around a bit to get closer to the frigates, since I didn't want to wait for ages for them to get into proper orbits. I made a mistake of massively reducing my angular speed to the battleships, and I got hit by one of their turrets. This reduced my shields to less than 10%, but I recovered my proper course and managed to boost back to 100%. Because of that, I think it's worth to bring up that this ship will definitely die in situations where the speed is low, such as when enough rats are webbing, especially in wave where there are battleships present. Speed is more important than the shield boosting for this ship. When fighting only battleships, all of the damage comes from the rockets since they always hit, but I only need to pulse my shields occasionally for that. So I continued grinding the battleship down. With that dead, it was time to get close to my MTU to gather the loot. In total, I earned around 20 million in 25 minutes or so. The next site is still in this Wolf-Rayet and it's a perimeter hangar anomaly. Here I deal with everything similarly, first destroying the frigates and then getting to the cruisers. The waves that consist of more than 2 cruisers are the most demanding in terms of piloting. While orbiting a rat in those, 2 others still have some capability to shoot you, since it's harder to get enough angular velocity on them. You both need to still manage angular to not get too much damage and cycle the shields at proper times to not get rid of cap. One scary situation was when my ship orbited straight into an asteroid. It almost reduced my speed to dangerous levels. I decided to for now manually move the ship to not fly into a rock again. When the battleship of this wave died, I moved on to the cruisers. At the next wave I approached instead of orbiting, which stopped my ship, putting me in a dangerous situation. The battleship, as before, took some grinding. In total, the site took around 15 minutes to finish, making 16 million ISK in blue loot. For the sake of comparison, I wanted to check how this feat performs without any effects, but I didn't find any good C2 no effect wormholes, and I wanted to actually put a video out, so I settled for a Cataclysmic variable C2, which reduces my tank but doesn't affect the damage. For the sake of comparing the effects in a meaningful way, this site is also a perimeter hangar anomaly. This time I focused a bit more on the frigates to get them out of the way faster, since they use newts and the wormhole effect reduces my capacitor. Overall, because of the shield boost reduction, I need to use my shield module more, which strains my cap affected by the lowered regeneration. With the frigates out of the way, the newt pressure was gone and I could go on fighting the cruisers. I also dropped the MTU at this point. With how the site has been going, I noticed how much worse this feat performs without the Wolf-Rayet DPS bonus. In here, the rats take almost twice as long to kill, which somewhat aligns with the actual DPS difference. In the next wave, as always, the most damage I got was during moving closer to the rats, since the angular velocity is the lowest then. At this point I have some considerations in regards of what wormhole effects would be the best for this ship. I only tested the Wolf-Rayet and Cataclysmic variable, but this feat would perform really well in a magnetar wormholes, which reduce the application but raise the damage. Since it uses small rockets, then the application is amazing anyway. Other effects don't affect the feat too much, except for maybe pulsar wormholes. The signature radius raise and node effectiveness will harm the performance of it, maybe even making it impossible to use. The best wormholes would be actually Wolf-Rayets because of the massive 88% DPS increase and a reduction in signature radius. The next best ones are magnetars again, because of the damage bonus that this ship really lacks in. Grinding the battleship without the damage bonus gets sort of slow and boring with this feat, even despite the fact that it could destroy me in 2 hits if I for some reason stopped. For the next wave, it was time to move in closer again, also getting the most damage too. When possible, I would recommend to deal with smaller rats first, since they are a threat because of damage application more so than straight up DPS. I finished off the last battleship after a few minutes of grinding it down. In total, this side took around 25 minutes in this wormhole, so significantly more than in the Wolf-Rayet. I made around 16 million again. So, it's time for conclusions. From my own perspective, this ship is really fun to fly when it doesn't have to grind battleships too much, so it's most likely a feat suited for magnetars or Wolf-Rayets. The total price of it is 160 million or so, mostly because of the particle field accelerators and the C-type shield booster. When it comes to improvements, I would say that not as much cap equipment is needed, so there is a chance for exchanging either rigs or a low slot for something else. But with tight CPU I think not too much would work instead of the flux coil. Piloting this Jackdaw so far was exciting, more so than this Fipple because of the active shield management. I definitely recommend checking it out for yourself. You can find a link to the feat I used in the description of the video. As for if this feat is effective for running C2 sites, not in most of them, but if you are looking for a fun ship for Wolf-Rayets or magnetars, then I definitely recommend this setup just for the fun factor. For effectiveness, you might be better off with a Confessor in the Wolf-Rayet, but if you already have a Jackdaw skill, then there's a viable feat. So, that's it from this feat idea for now. Let me know what do you think should be improved here, and if you checked it out for yourself. Again, thanks to Ranzera for sending me this idea to test. Comment on what do you want to see me cover next, and subscribe if you haven't yet to be notified about my future uploads. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it from me today, see you next time!